Eric?
Well, Jamie, addressing the government's long-term budget problem is vitally important. But with today's increased unemployment rate that shot to 9.2% on Friday, well, putting people back to work is just as big an issue as the debt. So does Washington need to quickly move from its debt debate to solving the jobs problem? Tony Sayegh is a Republican political consultant, Ryan Clayton, a Democratic campaign consultant. Tony and Ryan, welcome on the Sunday morning.
Hi, Eric.
Thanks for having us.
Tony, let me start with you. You know, you got to deal with the debt. You got to deal with the spending. Yeah. But is all that effort, what's going to happen today, is that actually drowning out the jobs effort?
Well, listen, they're not mutually exclusive problems, Eric. The reality is that our debt and deficit problem is really a drag on our overall economy. Here's really what the issue is, that you have a hard deadline based on when you have to pass this debt ceiling. What's happened, though, is over the last 2 years, our acceleration of government spending, 35% added to the debt in the last 2 years alone, has forced us to confront this issue well before anybody expected to. At the same time, the president's answer to creating jobs is spending more government money to the tune of $840 billion in the first stimulus. That's not work. So we're running out of options and we're running out of time, and this president's at the wheel, but he's really not taking us anywhere.
Well, what's shocking is one report said that the stimulus plans showed that it cost $25,000 of taxpayer money for each job?
No, Eric, the White House's Economic Advisors report released the weekend of 4th of July, so not many of us were taking notice at the time, said it cost almost $250,000 per stimulus-created job. That's not an efficient way to do it.
So, Ryan, you know, what do they do? What's going to happen about 7 hours from now or so when they get together at the White House? And how can they solve this jobs problem?
Well, the president's got to call the GOP's bluff on this one and just make sure that we don't default on our debt obligations. Look, the only people in this country who care more about the debt than they do about jobs are the ones sitting in Congress. You know, regular Americans around the country are focused on rebuilding the middle class and rebuilding the American dream, while these politicians just seem tone deaf and seem like they're just not listening.
But a lot of Americans are really concerned about the debt crisis and the amount of all that money that we're in the hole for, though.
Eric, there was a Pew poll back in June that showed that there was an overwhelming amount of support for reducing government spending to reduce the debt and deficit. Among independents, it was a 54 to 39% ratio. The American people get the fact that we are on an unsustainable course. And yes, we do need to focus on job creation. Most of that comes, though, from Washington getting out of the way. And all we've had for 2 years of a Democratic-controlled Congress in both the House and Senate and President is more government spending, more government regulation, and more uncertainty that's handicapped private enterprise to do what it needs to do for us to grow this economy, which is to create jobs.
You know, Tony, you jump in for a second and have Ryan respond.
Sure.
Yeah, but look, can you trust these Republicans on this issue? You know, Vice President Dick Cheney infamously said that deficits don't matter. And then the Republicans at the time, they talked about starving the beast by running up huge deficits. So now the people that actually created the debt that we're having to deal with right now are the ones saying that they don't want to have to pay the bills that they helped create. And I think that that's just irresponsible.
So, Ryan, how do we get look at that number right there. It says going up, up, up like a roller coaster. We wanted to go down. It was a shock on Friday when the unemployment rate went up from 9.1%. How do we get it down? Ryan, how do we get the jobs back?
Well, I'll put it to you this way. If President Obama wants to get reelected, he needs to quickly call the GOP's bluff on this debt talk. He needs to take Social Security off the table, and then he needs to put Americans back to work and really focus on rebuilding the middle class. That is his only path to victory in the next election.
You know, let's be very honest about this for a moment. Who is really bluffing right now? The president appointed a debt commission that was bipartisan, that came out with $4 trillion of cuts not even a year ago. They were bipartisanly accepted. In that came the call for tax reform, which both sides agreed to. Kent Conrad, Erskine Bowles, Al Simpson, a lot of very good Republicans and Democrats came to the table and made a goodwill effort. The president got that, and he summarily rejected those cuts. Now, all of a sudden, with a deadline to his back and a jobs number that's dropping and unemployment rising and cost of living rising and wages dropping, he now says we need to be honest about this, and you call it a Republican bluff. I think we've all been at the table ready to work. The president, unfortunately, has come very late to this game,
Ryan,
and he can't change it around fast enough.
Ryan, last word.
Well, look, you know, the one thing that the Republicans have to do is admit that there's got to be a revenue side solution to this problem as well as a cutting solution. You know, they need to be honest about the fact that we need to take back the Bush tax cuts on the top 2%. And they need to be honest that corporations around America need to pay their fair share just like the rest of us. And if they won't acknowledge that simple fact, then they're simply not worth negotiating with on this issue.
All right, well, that's the debate. And you know what Tony and Ryan are talking about right now? They're going to be talking about behind closed doors at the White House in 7 hours from now. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us on this Sunday morning.
Thanks so much
for having us.